Mm. So basically, if I conclude a bit what you have said, that to get grants and make good research project is to collaborate with the best people you can get to your project. Think about the wider societal applications, but then do it still with the really high research standards. What would be your top three tips for early career researchers, how to apply for grants?
It's a good question, and of course, I also struggle with this thing. Everyone struggles, but I would say, well, with my limited experience,
Mm,
let's remember that. But for now, I would say that think about the big picture. What's important for the society, and try to formulate the research question or the main catch of the proposal so that many people can understand that. It can be very deep and very basic research and very scientific, but you need to, it's very good if you even try to formulate it in a way that many people understand that.
mm,
And well, they understand the problem, but they also understand the potential benefits that would arise from your project.
mm,
And then, third one, communicate those very clearly. If you have them in your proposal, it doesn't mean that people understand them. Say
mm,
them many times, use boldface font, conclude your paragraph so that it will be very clear that what's the point in this paragraph and what's the point in this whole proposal, so that your main point will be very clear for the reviewers. So I think that's maybe those are the 3 points.
mm. Yeah, I think that communication is important. Many researchers, I think, feel that the research grant proposal needs to look boring. It needs to look like a very scientific, and it's just text and no font color, no bold, nothing. But I think we have applied with Arto quite many grants for business and from EU, and there I think it's more traditional to make it very nice looking and easy to read. And I guess you have applied these same principles into your research grant applications.
Yeah, for sure. And reviewers are also people and humans. So think about yourself. Yeah, this is also good. Think about yourself reading the proposal and give it to your colleague also. They can read it, and then you can, it can be very easy for you, of course, because you own the idea, but how you communicate it to others, that's the main thing there.
Mm,
And and use graphs also. If you have pilot data, make it a credible case that you are the best person to execute the study. Show that you
mm,
have data, so that you have previous knowledge. Take some screenshots from your previous publications that support the current case. Tell what you will add into this, how you build upon the previous findings, and so on. So, and also the implications and the practical outcomes, make them very clear for the reader.
mm. And I think important point is you said that think about reading it yourself, but think about reading 20 of proposals yourself in a busy schedule in 2 days or something. Think about how can you read everything if it's said once there, like for example the practical applications. Will the reviewer even notice it? So think about person reading 20 proposals per day or something.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's very important point. And we also need to remember, at least in Finland, there's so much competition. There's so little money, and they are even cutting more of this money. Even if you have the best proposal in the world, it doesn't mean that you get funding. So it's a very sad situation. Many very good proposals with very good good practical implications, they don't get funding. So it's a very bad situation. But that's how it is. And all you can do is to apply with good proposals and apply again.
And then maybe a question about, you write the good proposal, you don't get the money from one place. Do you rotate the same study to different funding agencies? And yeah, how do you see it? Do you send it to every opportunity, or how do you kind of play the game?
No, nowadays I try to be more strategic and have a longer goal. During my PhD, I was rotating the same proposal. It's a little bit different because you only apply money for yourself. So I rotated the same proposal, and then I kind of felt that okay, it's more about the quantity, about the touch point with the with the funding agencies. The better chances you have to get the money, which is of course true. But nowadays I try to be a bit more. I need to know who will do the study. I cannot do everything myself, and also I rather apply for big grants than go everywhere with small grants. Of course, it's easy to say because I have 2 big grants running now. It would be very different if I didn't have these grants and my PhD students wouldn't have money. So, but if possible, and then I also try to think about combinations in these grants. So, getting basic research funding is very difficult, but then there are many like applied grants that you can apply for and build one piece of the bigger picture with those grants. That would mean like implementing some intervention components in companies, trying to find business opportunities for those, or then building these intervention components to be scalable and something like that. But if possible, if you can touch the same idea or the same topic from many perspectives, and with the basic research and applied and development kind of point of views, then it will be a more powerful combination than with the research grants only. And of course, it's very important to note that getting this development funding is much easier than getting this research funding. So it can be very difficult to have a long continuation with very high quality research grants. It can be that you need to have a period of less competitive funding, but you want to keep the good guys working, good people working, and to be able to pay salary for them. So that's why it's very important to think on a little bit longer perspective than only with one grant.
And when you said developmental grant, you mean the ones that are in collaboration with industry?
Yes, some of them are in collaboration with industry, and we have this kind of regional development funding, which is aimed at developing like your regional business opportunities or regional healthcare, occupational healthcare, things like that. And it makes sense to combine these with basic research grants. So you develop this health promotion interventions with the research grants, but then you can test them in practice with the other grants, and it's a very good combination. With this development funding, you can provide education, you can run pilots, and you can develop the interventions to be more a better fit for companies or for healthcare. So
And
yeah, so
yeah,
I enjoy this kind of, and that also makes you think about the practical point also in the research grants.
And how do you apply for these? I don't know if many people can people from universities apply for them, or do they need to go through applied universities?
People in universities also applied them, but it's about the funding structure in Finland. For University of Applied Sciences, they are a little bit better funding because we have a little bit different funding system together with the ministry.
Mm,
That's why universities prefer grants with big overhead shares because that's where they make kind of that's how they keep the big house running. This overhead share is much smaller in these development grants, but for University of Applied Sciences, their kind of strategic goal is to develop the area where they are, in
mm,
addition to doing other research things and providing education. That's why they get an additional share upon of the grant themselves from the ministry,
mm,
and it's partly based on these development grants. So the system is a little bit different for University of Applied Sciences. That's why it's
mm,
a little bit better money for University of Applied Sciences than for basic research universities. But
mm,
still, many basic research universities also apply these grants because that's how they keep people working. They don't
mm,
take. It's very difficult for them to make any profit. Well, anyway, public organizations they don't do any profit, but you understand to
mm,
get any extra money for their organization because everything goes into running the project, which is also pretty good.
mm. Yeah. And do you know anything about this kind of regional grants or developmental grants in other countries? Do you have any idea how they work in elsewhere?
I don't know. In Europe, we have many horizon grants, and they are very different because they have large overheads and they are very competitive. But I only know that there are development grants
Mm,
elsewhere as well.
mm,
Because, well, actually, to be accurate, actually, these are European level grants. These development grants,
mm,
they are regional development grants and uh, social development grants. So they are available around Europe.
mm,
So you can apply everywhere in Europe. And now we have the next kind of funding period starting, and we have a little bit updated content there. Uh, but they are available around Europe.
mm,
And actually, I know many basic research universities. We have done this in collaboration with European basic research universities. These applied these grants together. So
mm.
it's very possible, and they are even doing some research this kind of things. You
Yeah.
really cannot do directly research, but something
Yeah.
very close to research with these
Yeah.
grants also, and it depends on the funding agency, like the local funding agency also, what they let you to do.
Mm. I think that's a great point that it might be that the local authority is kind of uh, giving the money, but it might be leveraged from the EU. For example, as Fibion, we got funding now from a local from Jyväskylä, the city where Fibion is registered from the agency there, but it was actually React EU money that they were leveraging. So I think a take-home message from here is that check, like, as a researcher, that is there some in Europe, for example, is if there is some EU leveraged money that the local authorities can share. It probably needs to be some sort of practical applications, but it can kind of benefit. It can be a little bit research like.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and the point I enjoy in this development funding the most is that you discuss these projects beforehand with the funding agency. You only
Mm,
can get project for the real need, and that's where you contact the funding agency, the local funding agency, and they can tell you directly how much there are funds available for what purposes, what kind of projects they already have, and what kind of projects they would like to get, and even what kind of consortium they would like to see in the proposal. So building upon that, you don't do the only extra work you do if you don't apply is to contact the funding agency and have a 1 hour meeting. And then if they say that, okay, this is a very good idea, this is a very good consortium, just go ahead and apply. You will have very good chances. You don't do much extra work for that. So it's very kind of effective system. One very important thing to keep in mind is that many times you need to have companies involved in these proposals, so you cannot do them by yourself, and you need to have kind of like a preliminary agreement with the companies. But usually it doesn't require a lot of commitment from the companies. They are pretty easy. But anyway, it's that's how they ensure that these have the practical side also.
And maybe I can give an industry perspective. I also get sometimes emails from different countries that would Fibion like to be part of this kind of project. So we usually like to be in this kind of project involved. But when you send an email, make a title that we right away understand that this is the thing, and then if it's, for example, just preliminary agreement that we just say that yes, we are interested, state it very clearly. Don't make like a long email that it's difficult to understand that what's the point in this. Do we need to give money? Do we get money? Do we need to give something for free? Do we need to write the proposal? But just that, make it clear that this is just a preliminary agreement. You just need to say yes and things will go, and the next step will be this. So just be very clear, and usually companies want to be involved, but make it very clear from the starting from the title and email that what is required from the company side.
That's a good point, and it's kind of doing sales, and it's the same for companies, it's the same for researchers, and it's the same for those who try to form a consortium for applications. And that's actually one thing that I've tried to learn also, that make your emails have a very clear call to action point. So only telling ideas and leaving it like open, it will be very difficult for the receivers to reply. So it also makes things much faster. Things will happen much faster. It will make it much easier for the recipients to reply yes or no, or do the action you like.
Yeah.
So and also in the proposal, make clear that what you like to do with it. Don't just tell the background, but make clear what you will do, what will be the benefit. This is what you will get from this. It's actually a pretty good comparison. If you would think about writing email to the reviewer, what would you say for him or her? So it's the same in the proposal. It's like a message to make him or her do the action to give you money. So make it clear that okay, this will be the benefit for you, and this is how we achieve it.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point about email. I feel I hear so many people being frustrated with replying emails and so on. So I always try to write emails that it has just one point. If I need to have more than one point, it will be number one, is this okay, blah, blah, blah. That you can just reply yes to number one, no to number two, and yes to number three. That you have just like numbered the questions that there are, and it's basically just yes or no. replies or maybe sometimes. But I think that's really important in a busy, hectic world that you write very clear emails.
Fully agree.
Yeah, and then how do you, if we go back to grant applications, I think you said that you have just 1 month time to write the free ride in which you got like almost €500,000. How do you, what kind of tips you have for writing process, how to manage time, what kind of mistakes to avoid?
It's a good question. I'm afraid I don't have any like anything special to give in this, but of course, well, how I do it, I usually start just with bullet points. I try
Mm,
to make the structure ready first, and what are the important points that I need to emphasize and highlight in this. I try to make it very clear. Um, and of course you need to know the literature. You need to cite the relevant papers in that field. So make sure that you show that you know the field, and you know how your study is in relation to the current field. What's the difference, and what's the added benefit, and so on. What we will add. And in Finnish system we have like Academy of Finland, this kind of proposal template which has many things. You have the ethical things and data management plans, and so make sure that you have the text for those, because they will take a lot of time.
mm,
And where I try to put a lot of focus, and where I have heard many people don't, is the implications or the practical applications from this, or how will you implement the results. uh, Usually you only have a copy paste kind of, we publish papers and some
mm,
media kind of letters or whatever. Well, you know that,
mm,
okay, you have the couple of news and that's it.
mm,
But in this free ride we have a plan to visit city councils in Finnish cities where we present the results, and then we send like a
mm,
brief practical leaflet or kind of abstract of the main results to all Finnish cities, and so we have a real plan for communicating the results to the actual, to the shareholders who need the data or need the knowledge. So
mm,
it's very simple, but still it needs to be in the proposal.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
And then of course make sure from the beginning what are the roles of the collaborators in writing the proposal. What's the, and the budget is of course very important. It's very good to agree from the beginning that how much funding will be for the collaboration. Well, collaborators usually don't get money, but if they are like part of the project, do they need funding for a PhD student or a postdoc, or how much you can share from this grant to the others.
Mm,
And of course,
mm,
the more you share, the more you can also expect input
mm.
in the proposal itself.
Yeah, yeah, nice points, and I think I can share this one that sometimes you have in grant applications that you have like questions that you need to reply, that it's not kind of free form, and you start writing those, and then when you're submitting it you go to electronic form and it actually has a really short character limits for your questions, and you have been writing like 3 times too long, and then you need to start like in the very end, start to cut it and basically do the work almost again. So if it's, go through the portal first and see that if there is character limits and write it directly to those, because not many things are as frustrating that you have written like a really long, perfect description, and then you can only have few lines in the electronic form.
That's true. And also check whether you can include pictures or charts or whatever there, whether the electronic system accepts those graphical files. Do they need to be like an supplemental file or whatever? So make sure that like the technical part, it's frustrating and it's very important. So it also might affect how you design the whole proposal. And one thing which is very clear, but I forgot previously, is that please make sure that you check the funding agencies or the grants, kind of the main points. What are the grants for? What are the main areas that they emphasize? They might have some keywords there. So please think about those, and please think about how your proposal meets those bullet points. And it can be like, it can be a very small thing. It can be one sentence where you just show that you have read it and you know what they want. For example, I'm collaborator in another Ministry of Education project where we got funding, and we included this qualitative part as an additional thing in the proposal. Well, first of all, we actually changed the primary outcome based on these main bullet points in the proposal. It was a different one, but then we went back to the bullet points and thought that, okay, this is a primary outcome that better fits the aims of the funding agency. And then we also included the qualitative part, so interviews, because the funding agency, they want to have like well, I don't remember exactly, but the children's view and kind of data on how to implement the results and things like that.
Yes, and I think I could add for that when you said that read what the funding is about, that if you think as the reviewer, and usually bigger the funding is, more bureaucratic it is. So it needs to be fair. So basically what the reviewer is doing is kind of checking that does this fit the criteria what we are applying, and that's their work, to be kind of bureaucrats that check that does this fit in. So even though the keyword bingo might sound stupid, that you put the words that are in the, what they are looking for, you put it in your application, but it also makes it very easy for the reviewer to see that if, for example, a business funding is for strategic development, say that this is strategic development. Don't say that it's operative or it's something else. Just use that word. And I think that's important, because you make it the task easier for the reviewer, because it might be against the rules that you cannot fund something that it's other than, for example, strategic. So make it easy for the reviewer and say it many times that this is strategic. This is not what it shouldn't be.
That's perfectly true. So make it easy for the reviewer to accept your grant, to say that this meets the criteria. And so please read the criteria.
Yeah.
It's not a big task, only a couple of A4 pages usually, or one web page. It will make increase your chance. This is self-evident, but still it's so important. and read it and use it in your proposal.
Yeah. So do the keyword bingo, even though it might feel stupid sometimes. And then another point is that there's kind of two approaches, that you have a research idea and you create a proposal, and then you look for some fundings that could fit your research idea. The other one is to look at the grant opportunities and then craft the research project based on that. Which one you are using more in a way? Do you have an idea and then you see that where could it fit, or do you see that there's a grant opportunity and you create the idea for that?
Usually, I create the idea. I try to. I don't apply a lot with the same proposals. I try to make new ideas. Of course, I use the old parts from the previous proposals, but to best fit the funding agencies, like the aims and bullet points, usually you just need to do it again.
Mm,
Uh, so so usually that way. Of course, for example, Academy of Finland, they don't have any topics usually for these basic grants, so you can apply whatever you like. But for some other proposals, I really try to meet the aims of the grant, kind of
mm,
give them what they want. I
mm,
think it's a little bit more difficult to, if you have a fixed idea, than to apply money for somewhere, starting from the technical part, because the proposal template might be so different in different proposals.
mm. Yeah. So my class last question: are you open for collaboration? Which kind of researchers or any other professionals could be in contact you? What kind of themes and how to reach you?
I'm very open for collaboration, and I would like to be involved in EU level, or even on a broader perspective, like consortiums. I would like to apply Horizon Europe funding. I have some ideas, but not very clear ideas. But for those proposals, you need to have a huge consortium, and you need to
Mm,
have industry partners as well, and academia, and so on. So I'm very happy to discuss about these opportunities, and also research opportunities abroad. Uh, my work has been mainly related to daily muscle activity and daily physical activity measured with EMG and accelerometers, randomized control trials in working age adults, and also in children.
mm,
So everything related to those, I'm very interested. In EMG side, we have been preparing some analytical things. So if you would be interested in using EMG in your project, I'm happy to help. Then you of course need to buy your equipment and so on, but I can assist in the analytical part. So those are the main things, and what I would like to do more is the implementation science, but I don't know how to do that. I have zero
mm,
experience, but I know how important it is. So that's also very interesting for me.
mm.
So very open for collaboration.
Yeah, that's great. And I could add here that Arto is a very good person to collaborate because he understands industry. He has been an entrepreneur himself for many years. He knows the basic research, and then he knows this kind of applied research, working in collaboration with healthcare. So I think great opportunity, and he is maybe one of the most effective persons I know, so he can he can do things super fast. So be in contact with Arto if you interested in collaboration. And Arto, what's the best way to contact you?
Thanks a lot, Ollie, and I must add that you are actually the most effective person I know. So Ollie is also a very good collaborator, and you have the same attributes than I do in relation to basic science and also implementation and business. So those are the combinations which which will be beneficial. And you have so many opportunities for large projects and for making changes, making things better and improving life on many sectors.
Mm. Yeah. So this has been really, really great discussions, Arto, and maybe I share with the listeners. We had a plan. We had a plan to make 3 episodes of 20 minutes, and one of them was supposed to be grants, not the first one. And we ended up talking like 1 hour and 10 minutes about grants. So this is like when you prepare well, but when we started talking about your work and it kind of slided to the grants, I didn't want to change. So this was very much about flow. But I felt that you have such great tips and insights to share about grants that I didn't want to go to our plan, but just go with the flow with this. But thank you, Arto. This was a pleasure. I think this was useful information for our listeners.
Thanks a lot, Olli. My pleasure.